guys, it's Sand, and I just finished watching a bunch of video game trailers and videos because this week was E3. Yay! I look forward to E3 every year. Since 2015, when I first really found out about it and started watching, I've always made an event out of it. I'll take down my schedule, I'll try my best to get a big setup with popcorn and drinks and just watch it on the TV, and honestly, I've never had a bad E3 personally. There's always been stuff I've been at least kind of interested in, and there's always been moments that really stuck out as super cool. And this year it was okay. In general, it was okay. Jeff Keighley's Game Fest was a big part of it this year, so a lot of the games I have to talk about here are actually from that reveal. But that's actually what we're going to do here today. I'm just going to go down a list of some of the games that caught my eye this year, and hopefully maybe convince you to get interested in them too, because a lot of the ones I have listed are smaller games, some of them are larger games that you probably already know about, and also I just kind of want to talk about E3 in general, because this was the year of some surprising, unexpected games that caught my eye, some things that got me really excited, and some things that were just, yeah. Let's get started. First up was the Borderlands spin-off called Wonderlands, which appears to be a high fantasy looter shooter made by the Gearbox people who made Borderlands. And honestly, even though it was just a trailer with no gameplay, this kind of caught my eye because of the voice cast, because of the setting, and because honestly with every Borderlands game the gameplay has gotten better, even if the writing tends to be shaky. I'm hoping that the high fantasy setting will give the writers a chance to kind of take a new direction with the comedy and hopefully inject a little more of the dry wit that Borderlands 1 had back into the series, because that's my favorite stuff. But I am actually interested in Wonderlands, and I have not played a Borderlands game in a little bit, so maybe this will be the one that brings me back into the series. Then there was the Anacrusis, which is going to be the first in a long line of Left 4 Dead style games that caught my eye this year. The Anacrusis basically seems to be you and a team are on a spaceship invaded by aliens that you have to fight with guns. The thing that really caught my eye with the Anacrusis was the art style everything had. A lot of the colors popped and a lot of the environments reminded me of this 50s aesthetic, and I really like that kind of stuff. I don't know what it would be called specifically, but Prey also had it. It's just this kind of older era space age stuff. Then there was the dark picture anthology House of Ashes, which is the next game from the people that made Until Dawn. I really just liked the premise for this, which was basically, from the trailer, it looked like a bunch of military guys find a nest full of vampire monsters, and then they all get picked off one by one. It's a fun plot, it's kind of cheesy, but it's the kind of stuff that I like. It reminds me of an episode of a show I used to watch, Lost Tapes, where a similar thing happened to a group of soldiers. Then there was Back 4 Blood, which is another Left 4 Dead style game, but this one is made by the Left 4 Dead people. So it's the one I have the most confidence in, and I never really got into Left 4 Dead, mainly because it felt a little janky to me, but with so much time passing, I think Turtle Rock has the chance to really hook a lot more people in by just making a much more polished version of Left 4 Dead, so I'm keeping my eye on that. Then there was Tunic, which is a cute game about a fox in a tunic going about a little adventure. It reminds me a lot of Link's Awakening, which was my first Zelda game, so I'm really interested in this. Then there was Rainbow Six Extraction, which seems to be a standalone expansion to Rainbow Six Siege. It's basically the operators from Siege in a PvE environment where you're fighting monsters, and a lot like Back 4 Blood and Anacrusis, it just caught my eye because I like this type of game, and I think now is the time where we're finally going to get a level of polish on it, so it won't feel as weird as Left 4 Dead did. Far Cry 6 looks good. They already showed off some Far Cry 6 stuff before E3 this year, and that's what really caught my eye, but there's just more of it here, so I figured I'd mention it. I really like the setting and the premise for this game, and I like some of the weapons and equipment that you seem to be able to use this time around. Then there was Atomic Heart, which got the biggest "what am I looking at" out of me the entire conference. This was revealed during Xbox and Bethesda's conference, and it really wowed me because from the start it's hitting you with this really poppy music, and it seems to be a weird Bioshock style adventure shooter with lots of cool imagery and technology and weapons and superpowers, and I was just wowed by it immediately. Then there was 12 Minutes, which is a cool little game where you play as, or you don't really play, I don't really know who you play as. You are watching an evening between this couple in a small apartment, and then the cops break in and accuse the man of having committed a murder, and then the scene plays out and then loops, and the whole thing is 12 minutes total, and you have to try and play it until you get the outcome you want, and it's kind of a mystery puzzle adventure. It was really interesting to me when it was revealed a few years ago, but this time it was here with voice acting, including a cast accompanied by James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, and Willem Dafoe. Then there was Somerville. From the creators of Limbo comes another Limbo-type game, except now it's much more of a 2D art style, and it's aliens instead of monsters. The trailer that Somerville had was really enticing because it was very mysterious, and you can immediately feel the kind of emotional beats they're going to hit with this family in the midst of an alien invasion. Then there was Redfall, which is another game by Arcane, the creators of Deathloop and Dishonored and Prey, and honestly, anything they make at this point is going to have my eye because they have such a great style. Redfall seems to be a Borderlands type co-op shooter where you're fighting vampires, and the trailer they showed off was just some pre-rendered cutscene, but if a lot of the things we see in the game are what we saw in this trailer, it's going to be pretty cool. Then there was Metroid Dread, which seems to be a more classic Metroid game, but with an element of dread. There seems to be this new type of enemy that Samus has to fight that are these giant robots that are immune to most of her attacks, so she has to run from them, kind of like how you have to run from Mr. X or Nemesis in the recent Resident Evil remakes. I've only ever played Super Metroid and a little bit of Metroid Fusion, but the presentation of this game, just from the trailer, made me really dial in, and I want to check it out as soon as I can. Okay, now it's time to talk a little more in depth about the big games that caught my eye. And the first one is Elden Ring. So after what feels like years and years of memes and radio silence, we finally know what Elden Ring looks like, and it looks like Dark Souls 4, honestly. And I'm not disappointed by that. I've played Bloodborne, and I've played Dark Souls 3, and I really love Dark Souls 3. I've played it and beaten it at least 4 or 5 times. So the idea that we're going to get something that's very similar to Dark Souls is not unappealing to me. I think the addition of a little rideable animal is going to be cool, and I'm hoping for lots of wide open spaces to utilize it. And I think the little bits of story that we're seeing are interesting. It's very vague and very much like a Souls game, but I think the game looks good. There's these cute little pot enemies too. Honestly, in general, a lot of the enemies look interesting. You have some more generic guys, but then you have Berserk Wolf and redhead cool gold knight lady, and a guy that's just made up of hands, because we always have to have a guy that's made up of something. We even got a date for Elden Ring, which is going to be January of next year, late January, I think, so that's great.
Here you now stand. This is my last fight, a true test of legends. Our story will outlive us both. Set a fire in your heart, Spartan. Bare your fangs. Fight hard. Die well.
Are you sure? This wasn't the mission.
The missions change. They always do.
Then there was Halo Infinite, and honestly, I think Halo Infinite was my highlight of the year, mainly because after seeing what they showed off this year, I went from not caring about Halo Infinite to kind of wanting to play it immediately. The main focus of Halo Infinite's reveal this year was more multiplayer, but they did show off a little bit of story stuff, including a look at the new area and a small cutscene that made me very interested. Really quickly, I'm a big Halo fan. It was one of the first PC games I played, and one of the reasons I chose to get an Xbox over a PS3 back when I had the opportunity to get one or the other. And I really love the games, especially Reach. That's definitely my favorite, and I really liked 4, even though it's a little divisive. But I really disliked 5 for some story reasons. I didn't like the way they brought back Cortana. I didn't like the large difference between levels that start Chief and the levels that start Locked. And I felt that there was a lot of focus taken away from the emotional stuff that Halo 4 had established to just be more of a Call of Duty style shooty game, and I think the story in general suffered from it. But here in Halo Infinite, they show off a small scene where Chief comes across a Cortana clone that is very innocent, almost, and doesn't know what's going on. And it's kind of implied that Chief is going to take this Cortana clone and seek out the real Cortana, and this Cortana may grow and change and become your new best friend. And I much prefer that than Cortana's back and she's evil now. It feels, I don't know, I'm a big fan of comic books, and obviously in comic books, people come back all the time after being dead, for whatever reason. So I don't mind bringing back a character that's died. What I do mind is the way they're brought back. I think bringing back Cortana, who had sacrificed herself, and making her evil was silly, but I think that having this weird mirror of Cortana around might be a better way to reintroduce her, if that's really what we still want to do. So yeah, Halo Infinite, I'm kind of interested in now. Not to mention the multiplayer looks really fun, and in general, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the art style for Halo Infinite is a lot better than the direction we're going. I kind of don't mind the look of Halo 4 and 5, but it's a little too busy in terms of the Spartan designs and the flashy effects. It's a little, it's trying too hard, I think, to be really beautiful and cutting edge when Halo doesn't necessarily have to be. I think the look we kind of struck with Halo 3 is perfect. I really like the look of Reach because it's got a believable level of like grit and grunge and dirt to it, but I really love the look of Halo Infinite, and you can really feel how much it works by looking at all those cool customizable suits in the Infinite multiplayer they showed off. Also, the Infinite multiplayer is going to be free to play, which makes me really excited because I can play it with my brother, and I can play it on the Xbox or the PC, and it's just a really cool thing to do. So yeah, Halo Infinite was definitely big on the list. They also showed off Breath of the Wild 2, which is something I want to talk about a little more, but they didn't show off too much. I like Link's new look. I like his new hand that seems to have the powers of the Wii U tablet in it now. The story implications are very brief, but very interesting. It seems like Zelda is lost again, or maybe we'll catch up to her. And the new environments and powers seem really cool. There's that clip of Link going into a rock and then coming out the other side that reminds me of Link Between Worlds. And the idea of having these floating islands seems really cool because it gives you a chance to recreate the world we already had in Breath of the Wild, but with new additions. They also show off a cool enemy unit, which is one of the Moblin treehouse camps on top of one of the rock mini-bosses that really made me smile from ear to ear. So yeah, Breath of the Wild 2 looks really good. Go figure. It's also not coming out for a little while. Go figure.
Gardeners of the Galaxy?
What? No, Rocket. So I let Groot fill out the paperwork.
And then the last thing at this E3 that really caught my eye was Guardians of the Galaxy. I was not expecting a Guardians of the Galaxy game at this E3. I was super duper surprised. And it's from the team that made Marvel's Avengers, a game that, despite its flaws, is really fun in my opinion. And right off the bat, this game put a good foot forward. It immediately told us what it is. It showed off gameplay immediately. It basically solved a lot of the problems that the Avengers reveal from a few E3s ago had. The tone that the trailer establishes is really fun. It's very close to what the movie is, but it's also very close to what the comics are like. The premise seems to be that the Guardians are still new to being a team, and they've come together not out of destiny, but more just to make some cash, which I think is really funny, but also means that there are no strong bonds starting off between these characters. There's a part in the trailer that shows this off where apparently Gamora is under a contract while she is there. She's not necessarily there because she wants to be, and they all haggle over their cuts and stuff like that. But basically they cause a problem and they have to fix it. That's as vague as any plot could be, but that's basically all they've told us. And I'm excited because they've shown off a lot of smaller references that are going to be fun, like Mantis and Cosmo, but it seems like the main villain is someone new, or someone at least that I don't recognize. And the team structure seems cool. And yes, you're just playing as Star-Lord, but it seems like they're going to take a It seems like they're going to take a God of War approach to it, where you are one character, but your other characters are in the environment helping in fights, and you can command them to do special moves. And I think this is fine for two reasons. One, it means that Star-Lord's gameplay can be much more in-depth than it could be if we had to spend time making 5 characters. And two, it lets us introduce an idea that is technically from the Telltale game, which is just, you're Star-Lord, leader of the Guardians, you get to make decisions. And the game shows off that there are different decisions you can make. Early on, there is a situation where they owe a fine or else their ship will be impounded. So Peter gets the option to listen to one of 3 of the Guardians, and he picked Groot. But I wonder what happens if you pick Drax or Gamora. Would you go on a different adventure, or would it kind of just sway back to the adventure you like? How deep are these choices going to go? And the team has already said that there are going to be some that are just for fun and some that are going to have like very serious consequences. And I'm excited to see all of that. And yeah, honestly, I liked Marvel's Avengers, the story stuff. I think it was a mistake to make it this big multiplayer game. And at the end of the day, it feels like a more expensive but not too polished Ultimate Alliance game with some good story. So I'm hoping that Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be a more polished, more focused single-player experience, and from there, hopefully Square Enix and Eidos Montreal can make a few more Marvel games. Because, I mean, after Spider-Man and after Marvel's Avengers, it's clear that Marvel games are back, and I just want them to be as good as they can be. So, yeah, I'm excited for Guardians of the Galaxy. And I really had fun this E3. I have a nice list of games that I'm really excited for, and E3's not even over yet. Well, technically it is, but the Summer Games Fest that Jeff Keighley hosts is still going on, and there's going to be tons of little things here and there all summer, and I'm sure PlayStation's going to have some sort of state of play since they weren't at E3. So yeah, I guess I'm just really excited for video games. And I hope you are too. Hopefully I talked about something that you wanted to hear about, or maybe I helped you discover something that you didn't know about already. And until next time, I'll see you guys around. Bye.